Good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Donation with Gift of Hope. I'm your host, Olivia Fox, and this is another interactive show where you, the viewers, can call in and ask any questions that you might have about organ and tissue donation in our community. Each week, we're streaming live at cantv.org/hotline, and you can call in and join our conversation by dialing 312-738-1060. Again, that's 312-738-1060. And if you do want to call in and ask us a question, make sure you get that call in before about 6:50 so that we can make sure that we get all of your questions answered tonight with my live guest. So welcome. I know a lot of y'all have been hearing the commercials and we're like, donation. What type of donation? Donation to charity, education, what? In actuality, it's a little bit of both. It's education about organ and tissue donation, as well as education about what our brothers and sisters in need when they are in need for a life-saving organ or tissue donation. And most importantly, what minorities need to know about participating in the process of organ and tissue donation. Ultimately, our sole purpose is to give you enough information to dispel the long-standing myths and misconceptions that run very deep throughout our communities, while helping you understand that Gift of Hope is a very honorable and trusted partner in the community. We recognize that minorities have fears in healthcare entities, and let's face it, some of those are well-founded. However, for the last 30 years, with advancements in modern medicine, with amazing transplant physicians, our hospitals, and religious partners, Gift of Hope has helped turn tragedies to triumph through organ and tissue donation, while supporting our donor families, recipients, and those still waiting for a life-enhancing or life-saving organ or tissue donation. So welcome to the show. I'm so excited about our guest for this evening and our topic for the night. So we'll see you after our regularly scheduled commercial break.
Nikki's donations made a huge impact on a lot of people. This one right here, sitting next to me especially. When Gift of Hope came to me and asked me for the donation, it made me feel very confident knowing that I can give my baby's heart. This is Nikki's heart beating inside Tanisha's chest.
So when I heard this pound, I'm like, what is that noise? And the nurse said to me, that's your heart.
I carried Nikki for 9 months. Now Tanisha's gonna carry her the rest of her life.
Say yes to donation. Start the conversation with your loved ones today.
Welcome back to the show and welcome to my guest for this evening.
Hello.
Our guest for the evening is my very good friend, cancer survivor and tissue recipient Lawrence Lett. Welcome to the show, Lawrence.
Hello. Thank you.
Thanks for coming again. If you are a loyal viewer, you might have seen Lawrence on a previous season, and he is back again to continue with his outreach and to telling his story about his life-saving tissue donation that he received. So if you haven't already guessed for the evening, we are talking all things tissue donation. We want to make sure that everybody knows that when you sign up to be a donor, you're signing up not just to be an organ donor, but to be a tissue donor too. And oftentimes we talk about tissue donation being just life enhancing, but it's also life saving. And it's really important for us to remember that that's an opportunity for people to leave a legacy and be a hero too. Only 8% of all death leads to any type of donation. 2% of that is organ donation, and the rest is tissue donation. So tissue happens a little bit more often than organ, and that's why it's really important for us to remember it. So Lawrence is here to tell his story. So how about you kick it off? I mean, I lived through it with you. You lived it yourself. So tell our viewers a little bit about what you went through.
Well, make a long story short, I was diagnosed when I was 14 with osteosarcoma of the left femur. I went through 2 rounds of chemotherapy. My first couple rounds of chemotherapy, they used to stabilize my hip because I broke my femur, and they stabilized my hip, put me through a round of chemo, and they did my big surgery where they recovered and saved the ball of my hip, and they did a salvage from the top of my hip all the way down to my knee and put a cadaver femur in there, which is somebody else's tissue. Put it in there, put a plate, and they put me through another round of chemo after that. And then I went through 3 years of physical therapy, and now I'm 10 years survivor.
Cancer-free, 10 years. That's so amazing. And so you definitely sped through that story.
Yeah.
But it was really a difficult time for you, of course. You were 14, you got this cancer diagnosis, and then you got this other diagnosis that there was, this the sickness was in your hip.
Yeah.
And so what were those three things that the three options they kind of gave you about how you could kind of deal with this besides the chemotherapy, which you had to do anyway?
Yeah, so besides the chemotherapy, as you said, the three options that they gave me were either to amputate my hip, either give me a hip replacement with full metal, or to save my hip, the ball of my hip, and put a cadaver femur in there.
Okay, wait. So let's just break this down. Again, you were 14 at the time.
Yeah, I was 14.
And they talked about amputating your leg. So
yeah.
that would be, if you can imagine, from your hip down, that's where they were going to have to amputate in
Yeah.
order to try to save his
Yeah,
life if they
yeah.
would have gone with that option.
And it would have been extremely hard because it would have been nothing for my amputee to attach to. So that's why they were really looking for other ways that they can do. But with it being so high up, it was really hard
Right.
for them to decide on what to do.
And so modern medicine, there are things like prosthetics and
Yeah.
things like that people can often use if they're an amputee. But like Lawrence was saying, where they would have had to amputate his leg, it would have been very, very difficult to use any sort of prosthetic. Even at such a young age, they, often talk about it's easier for a young person to rehab. But
Yes.
that is a major, major
Yes.
thing to lose your entire leg from the hip down. And so the second option was the hip replacement.
Mm-hmm.
And that also is a little crazy because, one, people don't usually consider hip replacements until
Older people.
like 60s,
Yeah.
70s, like older to us, not
And-
old
and
wise,
If they would have done that to me, I would have to had another surgery in my late 30s to keep my hip and to keep it going. So it would have been an altering situation in life while I got that.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like, a great option, but I
Nah.
guess that's one step from
That was
losing your leg completely.
Definitely. I would rather that than losing my leg.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so can you talk a little bit about the option that they did offer you, where they were able to remove the cancerous femur and
Yes.
replace it with the cadaver femur?
Yes.
And your surgeon was kind of, was kind of at the forefront of all this
Yes.
and learning how to use tissue matter in this way. So can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, so when we got diagnosed, we went through a lot of different research of looking for different type of doctors. A lot of doctors actually wanted to take on my thing because they were like, well, he's young, he's new, this will be something I can learn from. Well, my mom, actually being an employee of the hospital where I was diagnosed, she actually did her research and she found a specialist who had an office here and an office in Houston. And he actually was one of the head surgeons for my specialty at Northwestern.
Wow.
So he took on I was one of the second kids that he ever worked on because he was only working on adults. He was actually Mayor Deli's. He was her wife. He was his wife, her surgeon.
Wow.
Yeah. So he came in, he met me, and we had a great conversation. And from that point on, he told me he was going to save my leg and he was going to do everything he could.
Wow.
So he drafted these three options for me, and the amputee was the last option, and the number one option was the option that we went with.
Okay.
Number two would have been the prosthetic, but I mean the metal plate. But he went in there, he worked his magic. He went in there and removed I think 99% of the tumor,
Wow.
as well as he saved the ball of my hip, so I was able to get a femur bone put in there.
Okay.
It was a 16-hour surgery when because it was actually my birthday. My 15th birthday was June 1st, and they did the surgery on June 6th. And it was 16 hours, and when it came out, they told me that they saved my leg, and thereon I was rehabbing and just maintaining it.
That
I've been
is-
doing it still to this day. I still maintain.
That is
rehab.
truly amazing. And like you said, to this day, it's still something that you have to live a healthy lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
You exercise, you have to keep up with vitamins and things like that. So, you get this gift, but it's still encouraged to have a, healthy lifestyle.
Yes.
And you have totally been doing that. And you've been
Yes.
able to really
Yes.
thrive through this new chance at
Yeah.
life. So, hearing all these options, were you ever like afraid of, the option to get a femur from a deceased donor? Was this ever something like that you had thought of before, or?
Honestly, I had no knowledge of it, so it was not at the ability of me to be scared, or I didn't know. It was something new, and I didn't know that this was possible. So when I found out that this was possible, I was like, well, let's do it, because he also told me that with me taking this opportunity, I wouldn't have to go back and do another surgery, because once my body accepts the bone is my bone. Then the bone grows with me, and so on. So I was really confident in that decision with him to go with this procedure. So, yeah.
That's good to have that confidence, because that is a scary, scary situation
Yes,
that
it was
you were
very
in.
scary.
So let's let our viewers know a little bit more about what tissue donation is all about. Tissue donation can benefit patients in a number of different ways with a number of different life-saving and life-threatening medical situations, such as patients with severe burns,
Right.
athletes that have torn ligaments and things like that. This helps them heal and regain strength, restoring hope and mobility to military men and women. And then, kind of like what happened with you, repairing musculoskeletal structures, such as teeth, skin, and spinal components and bones and things like that. So tissue donation is, again, something that we don't often think of, but helps a lot of people live a more regular life than they would, if they had to have some sort of artificial piece put in or something like that. So let's also talk a little bit about what kinds of tissue can be donated. I'm not even sure if you know all these things, huh? So I might be teaching you a little bit. So some of the tissues that can be used for donation is cornea. And before we go into the other ones, cornea is a little bit different. That's one of the tissue that is not coordinated through Gift of Hope. It's coordinated through another organization called Eversight Eye Bank, and that's because cornea donation can happen a lot more often. Corneas can be saved and stored for a long time, whereas with organ donation, which is more often what we deal with, it's kind of like a time-sensitive thing.
Okay.
So corneas is with Eversight, but we still educate and promote cornea donation. Tendons that can be used to rebuild joints. Heart valves that can be used to help repair cardiac defects, so just in different heart surgeries. Sometimes I've even heard, instead of having to do a heart transplant or some of the different major heart surgeries, they're able to kind of repair with fixing certain valves and stuff like that. So I've heard some amazing things about that. Veins that help reestablish circulation for people. Skin that's used to help burn patients, and then bones that's used to help prevent the cause of amputation.
Right.
So yep, absolutely saved your life. Saved your leg and saved your life.
Yeah.
And so another reason why tissue donation is so much more common than organ donation is because the only thing that needs to be known is the time of death. So again, we're talking about deceased donation with all this. With organ donation, it can only happen if the death occurs in a hospital setting. Tissue donation, there's more opportunity for that because the only thing you need to know is time of death for that opportunity to be considered or presented to a family. So because of this gift that you have been given, how are some of the ways that you've been able to give back? What are some things that you've done to kind of tell your story, or what have you done to kind of give back?
Well, ever since I got diagnosed when I was 14, I was involved into all type of programs with cancer survivors or cancer patients. I joined a program. It was called, at the time, it was One Step at a Time. Now it's called Camp One Step.
Okay.
Doing some programs with them. I did things with Sunshine Kids, which was like traveling and meeting groups with other kids that have the same type of diagnosis that I have or similar lifestyles, and just related to them. And furthermore, growing on, I went to college. I graduated college. I graduated high school on time because I diagnosed my freshman year. So I got homeschooled through a portion of my high school career. Still managed to graduate on time, go to college, graduate, get my degree in biology, and instead of going further, something that I wanted to do, my passion was to give back to people and give back to the cancer world. So now I actually work for the organization Camp One Step
That's so
as
awesome.
the programs coordinator. So it's really awesome to be able to give back and to do something that I love that was so meaningful to me, and I'm able to give back and change the life of other kids, make it possible. And
you also give back by being a Gift of Hope ambassador and helping us coming out and telling your story in many different places.
Always.
We've been on the radio. You've been on here before. So
had a great time.
really,
I always do it.
It's made the biggest difference just for you to share your story and let people know that this is a thing, because in many communities we don't talk about the medical issues that we go through, that we don't talk about the difficulties that we go through with our health, but you have been so confident to be able to do that, and it's made a huge difference.
Education is the key. That's the one thing that we lack about our understanding of something is our education. So if the more we educate about being the donor or about saving lives, then we can make change lives.
Absolutely. And it looks like we got a caller on the screen. So go ahead and put the caller in. Hey, caller, what's your question?
Hi, I was just wondering, I know that people who receive organ donation have to take medication for the rest of their lives. Does Lawrence have to take medication because he got a tissue donation?
You want to answer that question, Lawrence? You kind of answered it a little bit in the
Yeah.
beginning, but tell us about that.
Actually, I don't have to take medication because I got tissue donation. I don't recall having to take anything because of my donation. So,
Wow.
I mean, but as far as my cancer-related things, chemotherapy, everything, yes. But as far as the donor or the bone-related things, no.
Wow, so that's amazing that
Yeah.
they were able to utilize that tissue matter to be able to save your leg,
Yes,
and
it was a perfect match.
it was a perfect match, and it has
Right.
not, had any lasting effect on your life. I mean, people
No
could look
problems
at
at
you
all.
and they wouldn't even know.
Never know.
I mean, you're in a fraternity, you step and all that
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
and
man.
do all that hard
Insane.
stomping. So I know that
Yeah.
bone is working real good in your leg.
It's really good. It's
That's
laying
amazing.
bone.
So, can you tell us a little bit about some of the resources that Camp One Step offers? Because I know
Yes.
you've been able to give back a lot with that, and I want to let our viewers know what resources are out there because we love to support our community partners.
All right, that's great. So Camp One Step is a nonprofit organization for kids who have or had cancer. We provide a place where kids can be a kid again by relating them into situations outside of the hospital, taking them to different camps and different programs that we have across the United States. We take kids skiing 2
Wow.
times a year. We take kids water rafting. We go meet with the Senate in Washington, D.C. We
To advocate.
advocate
Wow.
about childhood cancer. We do a lot of different things. We have a lot of different volunteer opportunities also for people to volunteer and give to Camp One Step. So we do tons of things for our communities with the cancer and survivorship people. So it's amazing.
That's awesome,
It's
and I'm
amazing. And you can reach us at our website
okay.
at www.camponestep.org, and it will let you know about all our programs and all our volunteer opportunities. If you have time to volunteer, you should look at Camp One Step. We always welcome you.
Cool, and they are so lucky to have someone
Oh,
like you
thank
that's
you.
so passionate
Thank
and
you.
good at outreaching and so well connected also
Yeah.
within the city. So this is a really awesome opportunity for you and them. And so finally, to wrap it up, because of the gift that you've been given, this gift gave you the opportunity to grow up. It gave you the opportunity to graduate high school and do all
Yes.
these things. What is something that you would want to tell a donor family that is wondering about the legacy that their loved one left through organ or tissue donation? What is the kind of thank you that you'd want to say to them?
Well, something that I live by is paying it forward. You just be a gift that keeps on giving,
Absolutely.
because the life was given to you, and just always just be able to keep on giving. That's what be a gift to keep on giving. That's all I can say.
Absolutely. And organ and tissue donation is the only way to continue giving after your life here on this earth has run out. It's the only way to leave your legacy through someone else walking and talking on this earth. And we really just hope that after hearing all of this information, you would consider registering to be an organ donor. If you do have any questions, you can reach us at giftofhope.org. You can reach me by email if you have any questions or would like to get involved with Gift of Hope. You can reach me at ofox@giftofhope.org. And please, if you do nothing else today, if you do nothing else after you watch this show, please have the conversation with your loved ones. Please register to be a donor. You can go to giftofhope.org. It takes 30 seconds to register on our site. And actually, before we close for the evening, it looks like we have another caller. So go ahead and put the caller through. Hey, caller, what's your name and your question?
Hi, yes. If I am a cancer survivor, can I still become an organ donor?
That's an awesome question. Thank you so much for asking that. That's a really important thing that oftentimes people in the community just might not register because they don't know. I tell everyone, register your wishes, no matter what your medical situation, no matter what your social status, no matter what any status you have, register your wishes to leave a legacy in this way. And if you are indeed a cancer survivor, if you do want to be an organ donor, once you have been in remission for 10 years, you then have the opportunity to become an organ and tissue donor at that time. So again, please register your wishes. If and when the time comes that you can become a donor, the professionals will evaluate what is viable to be used. They won't give anything to anyone that would make them sick. So that's not something that you have to worry about or consider when you register. When you register, we want you to live a long, healthy life And if and when the time comes, Gift of Hope will help you carry out your wishes to leave a legacy on this earth and save a life through organ and tissue donation. So thank you so much for joining me tonight,
Thank you.
Lawrence.
I had a great time.
Thank you for telling your story. It's so important for us to be
Anytime.
aware about tissue donation. And we will see you all next week for our last episode of the season. And I'm so excited about our guests that we have next week too. So make sure that you tune in for some more educational information about the importance of organ and tissue donation. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye.
See you.